I think we're live.
It's awesome. I am so excited about this. Live at 5, Facebook. I really am. This is my favorite number. 3. Because Claire's a 3. And this is just like one of my best, most favorite of all time subject matters.
Okay, so here's
It
what I want
really
to say.
is.
What if I wasn't going to tell people I was a 3?
Well,
How do you know I was going
think
to divulge that?
No, come on. Everybody, 99% of the people that'll look at this probably know you're a 3, I would think. So threes,
I think we actually divulged that in the book.
we did.
Spiritual Rhythms for the Enneagram. I
That's
confessed, even though, can I just say that when I found out I was a 3, I wanted any other number. I would have bought a vowel. A number,
Well, see, and
whatever.
I hear her say that, and I don't get it. I've got to tell you, maybe it's because I think you are such a wonderful example. I'm serious, of a transforming 3. You just are so aware of, you just have such a desire to grow into who God's made you to be, and I just think it's wonderful. So I don't think that we could have a better conversation than around the 3, because you're such a great example of that energy. So
thank
3s
you.
are effective.
Wait. Well, before you start doing that, so here's what happened. I did not know that we were going to do the 3. In fact, I was just kind of thinking it would
This
be
might
better.
be the first time we've done the 3 in this kind of setting for sure.
Oh,
I mean, we've talked about it in workshops together. Yeah. But anyway, go for it.
Anyway, so we didn't plan it, but I don't know if I would want anybody else but you to talk about 3, because I think sometimes 3s get a really painful view of themselves if they hear teachers that don't love a 3, like if they've had bad experiences with a 3. So I'll let you go, and then I'll do all the
No, that's a great
yeah.
point. I think that 3s of all the types probably get more grief. Everybody gets a little bit of grief, but I think 3s get picked on maybe more than any other type. I would say that in my experience.
9s. You know, like everybody wants to be a 9. Have you ever noticed that? People will say that. If I could pick,
Everybody wants to be slothful. I like that.
Everybody wants to be
like
at
that.
peace. Anyway, welcome to this Live at 5. I'm Claire Loridge.
I'm Scott Loridge, and we're glad to. So we're glad to be here with you for this Facebook Live, and we're in the heart triad now. So we started out 891 in the gut, and now we have moved into the space of the 234.
Yeah, and heart people, if you've taken a look at the book, you can actually discover some of the ways that heart people come into the world. We'll actually say things like your heart has its own neural system. There are more neurons sending information up from your heart region to your brain than vice versa. And so there's a lot of information coming up from your EQ, your emotional intelligence. And so we talked about 2s yesterday, Doug and Adele.
What a great job they did with
hello,
that.
Doug. We see you there. And what a great job they did with the 2s, telling us about the true self of the 2s and ways that we could walk in empathy. So hopefully we'll be able to do that with the 3s as well.
Yeah, so the 3s, they're the effective, efficient, producing type. They are ambitious. They bring a lot of energy and competence to the world. Such a gift. If you want something to get done, ask a 3. You could ask an 8 certainly, but these folks they get it done. They're hard workers. A couple of examples just in contemporary culture. If you've seen the movie The Greatest Showman with Hugh Jackman playing P.T. Barnum, it's a great kind of picture of a 3.
I wouldn't like that picture to say that that's the picture. I would say that might show some of our false self stuff.
Well, that's true.
Right?
But that
Let's
energy
do a
of,
good one. Let's like Condoleezza
Yeah.
Rice. How about that?
That's
That,
a great, great three example.
great three example.
Another unhealthy example would be Gaston in Beauty and the Beast. That's definitely an unhealthy three example. But
why are you fixated on the unhealthy examples today?
I'm not, because I've got such a great healthy example in front of me, I think. So, yeah, they just bring such competence, leadership to the world. It's threes, I think, exemplify sacred confidence, for sure. I love what Paul says when he makes this comment in Scripture. I think this is kind of a three comment when he says, "Be all things to all people in order to win some to Christ." I think that's a three statement to kind of morph into that place where you can adapt and communicate in that sense in a good way to help people move into what their best creative self is. Threes are great motivators. They're wonderful team leaders. They do a great job of helping all of us realize what we've been created for. So beautiful. Yeah.
Well, I like the scripture you're choosing because that is the gift of the three, to be all things to all people, and it can also be their suffering. In fact, when threes are camouflaged, many times they forget who they really are. So the defense mechanism for a three is called identification. So I may identify more with you than I do with what my own heart's desire is. If I'm not healthy. Think, when I was 40 years old, I came upon the Søren Kierkegaard quote, which was, "With God's help, I shall become myself." And that self, not the self that others expected of me, not the self that you expected of me, not the self that our congregation expected of me, but the self that God had created in God's own image. So we can really lose ourselves. And I think we actually, if I can get the light to come back on here, I can see what's happening.
Well,
and if any of our threes want to ask any questions, we'd love to hear from you about what it's like to be a three, or what you'd like to know from a three. I think we'll talk about a little bit about even the story that we wrote in the book. And that's about at 40, when we were about 10 years into our church plant, and I stayed up late and woke up early, and love to quote Thomas Edison, late to bed, early to rise. Well, no, that's another one. Too much sleep makes a man dopey, is what Edison used to say. What other people would say is late to bed, early to rise, work like hell, and advertise. So that's exciting. And both of those things were really true of the first 10 years of trying to grow a congregation and do social justice work and really make our mark on the world.
Young mom.
Yeah. And so the reality was I was diagnosed with MS and discovered that I was going to have to learn to rest. And so the first spiritual practice that was offered to me was rest. And that didn't even feel like a spiritual practice, because, the false self of the three is self-deceit. So when you're not living in your inherent greatness, as I was not living fully in that healthy self, I was deceived in my own soul about how much effort I could put into things without resting. And so sometimes it takes a debilitating illness, sometimes it takes a relationship failure for a three to say, oh my gosh, I actually have limitations and I don't even know what that looks like. What am I going to do now? And so, when you think about threes in their workaholism, how was that for you to live with a workaholic?
Well, I've got to say that, Claire and I, we have done over the years a lot of kind of presenting on marriage and relationship. But the Enneagram really just opened us up to a whole new space. I think before we were introduced to the Enneagram and understanding that Claire as a 3 and myself as a 9, and having empathy for one another, just opened us up to a whole new world. So, before that, I think that, you kind of approach marriage, for instance, from this man and woman, and, we're made certain ways. But the Enneagram opens us up to a whole different space. And it helped me just to see and appreciate your pursuit as a 3, the things that really brought you alive, and paying attention to the piece that you could fall into workaholism, and helping you to have space intentionally to say to you, you know what, honey, you've done enough. You've been doing amazing work. You're doing amazing. It's good enough what you're doing, and to make sure that you have space, I think, to take the rest that you need when you need it, and paying attention to those things that are important.
Yeah, because 3s wake up with an inner supervisor that just says you are not enough. And so what are you going to do today to be enough? And so there is this, this inner supervisor, like, get up, get it done. Come on over, Kirsten. And
Tati just say no, Daddy.
Yeah, okay, no problem. Come on up.
Come on with Grandpa.
No, okay, so that was a grandchild. And back in the day, I would be like, okay, so we probably need to re-record this, right? But here's our story. Your spiritual life is really where it's happening right now. So when you have grandkids here, this is where your spirituality is happening. And you have to discover how to let go of your need to succeed, your need to impress, your need to manage the image of the moment, right? And to say, okay, so what could help me let go of life being all up and to the right, all success, all achievement? Because what we know is that the basic desire for a 3 is to be valuable and worthwhile, and have this dream. They want to be affirmed and be admired. And the reality is we need to learn that how other people see us is none of our business. That really, it's not about my identifying with how you see me. It's about my identifying with how God sees me and feeling my own heart and experiencing the moment.
I love what you say when you're talking about just achievement or performing. I love when you talk about your own childhood experience, being the youngest of 6, and how that may have informed how you were created as a 3. You came into the world that way, but then it was really kind of nurtured along by just where you fell in your childhood development, with having all these older siblings.
Yeah, they were all smarter, faster, right? Sang better, had talents I didn't have. And so when you're competing with 5 older siblings, you have this desire to be as good as them. And so you start to compete at a level you can't compete at because you're a little person. And so then this need to succeed, this drivenness for a 3, it could come from many different places, but then it's always like, okay, well, I have to at least look like I know what I'm doing. I have to make it sound like I understand what they're saying. It has to be that I love their music, their Vietnam music, I'm opposing their war. And the truth is, I was, the little sister of one who was 12 years older, 10 years older, a brother 8 years older, a sister 6 years older. And so when you lose yourself as a 3, you might start to achieve in ways that really aren't true of you. So I love the Kierkegaard quote, with God's help, I shall become myself. And not the self that you think you need to be, where you let that inner supervisor say, you're not enough here. You gotta prove it. You gotta fake it till you make it. You gotta spin it to win it. And so we even see, I think, in church world, that there are churches that are very workaholic-like. Maybe in America especially.
Yeah, maybe America is more a three-church culture than any other culture, certainly. It would probably speak to that most clearly. So it's interesting to me as well that, because threes come off just so confident, we all look at you all and say, they just are always confident, they're always assured. It's always interesting
until we wake up and we
me,
can say we're not.
Well, and I think that's one of the things why when I say that I see you as such a transforming three is just your openness around, that there's other energies that can be really challenging, at times, and other,
so say what you're talking about. So
well, I this is certainly a generalization, but I think for every type we have our challenges with certain other types.
So let me name it for a three.
Yeah, threes don't seem like they ever have any problem with any type.
Not true. So threes and ones and fives are all what we would call competency types, and they all desire competency. There's a motivation for competency, with a different underlying motivation. And so we're about to have grandchildren again. And so when the people that might trigger me are ones, my beloved co-author there, Doug Calhoun, who, he is a competency type because of the desire to be good. And then fives are, they desire to be competent because there is this need to be wise or to be thought wise. And so many times ones and fives for me as a three kind of rev up that false self energy, like I have to prove that I have worth. And so just knowing that the energy of particular types can cause that to ramp up in me, I can make another choice. Because once I'm aware of my awareness, I can bring intention to that attention. And that's true for every type. When you're aware of the ways you get triggered, you're aware of the ways that you get in your own way, you're aware of the ways that get you trapped in false self-strategies, you can make another choice. So, for threes, when we might fall into self-deceit, or what some might call the vice of vanity or vain. That word vain just means purposelessness. And so when a three feels like they don't have purpose, they're not making a mark, they're not having an effect, the false self-energies can really ramp up. But when you're aware of that awareness, you can say, wait a minute, I don't have to prove that I'm enough here.
Yeah.
I can breathe, I can step back. In fact, one of the things that you'll notice, and we're not getting into these head, heart, gut, motion mantras or what the title of each chapter is in this series of conversations on Facebook Live, but you'll notice in our book, we give you 3 words that connect you with your harmony triad. And so for me, it's effective, loyalty, harmonizes. And so when I realize I'm just trying to make an impression, I'm trying to be effective, I'm trying to get it done, if I can let the questions of loyalty come and say, so Claire, why do you think you need to do that right now? Why do you need to get that done? Why do you need to make that connection? If I let that 6 ask me questions in loyalty, like it's more than just about getting it done, it's about the people I care about. I want to be loyal to you, right? Then I can start to rest into the 9, which is this beautiful harmony that can really even disappear.
Yeah.
And practice rhythms of rest and solitude that are really life-saving for 3s.
Yeah,
because
What-
threes can be always on.
And as you mentioned earlier, when you were 40 and you were diagnosed with MS, how absolutely life transforming that became for you to go toward that kind of 9 energy, that 9 space.
So glad I had a 9 in the house to show me.
Well, I
Yeah.
always here
Yeah.
to encourage naps and such,
Uh-huh.
right? Isn't that what 9s do?
So beautiful.
One last thing, I think, because before we go, that I think I would love to hear. I mean, for me, 3s are so in tune, being in that heart space, so in tune with everybody else's heart.
Mhm.
You know, I think that's what helps them be so charismatic. They walk in a room, they just feel everyone else in the room, but that can become, for a 3, challenging for themselves. What is that like? You know, I mean, because I think the reason that you can be so charismatic and you can connect so well with pretty much any person as a 3, but at the same time not be as readily connected to that when you're not fully healthy.
Right, so the redemptive virtue back to health for 3s is truth. And so staying in touch with what is really true. Is it that I want to get that done, or that I want to connect with people that I care about? And so, you know, for the 2, the 3, and the 4, it's all about connection. It's all about connection. We want to be connected for different reasons, but we all want to be connected, and so do all human beings. But, you know, heart people can take it to an art form. And so when I come to the truth that it's not about I want to do this for you so that I leave an impression on you. And when I say impression, I mean to impress upon, like, I was here, I cared, it mattered that I showed up.
Yeah.
But if I can let go of that and come to the truth that I really want to connect because I love, you know, I love. And if I can remember that, bring that back into my psyche, that I remember it. Sometimes we've dismembered our heart, even though we are in the heart space as 3s. If we can remember that, then we come home to ourselves, and we're able to then really connect with the people we care most about, and not make a million connections out there with a bunch of people that are not going to be at your deathbed, but really the people that you are, you are heartfully connected to in this life. So 3s, effective loyalty harmonizes, and so many spiritual rhythms in the book that we've been trying on for years, and we hope you'll try that out. And so if you haven't gotten the book yet, it's Spiritual Rhythms for the Enneagram.
Check it out, guys. You can get it at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, pretty much anywhere you get books.
Anywhere you get books, and it's not just a trade book on the Enneagram, it's actually a guide to help you do your spiritual work.
Yeah.
So
this has been great. Will you marry me? I mean,
I
I just
again.
love listening to you
again,
talk about what's going on inside of you. Love the 3 energy. Do not miss tomorrow night. Doug and Adele are going to be talking about the 4. Adele is a 4, so you're not going to want to miss that. Certainly invite all your 4 friends. And until next time.
Yeah, until next time.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.